up, I'm a teenager. I'm only 17 years old. I haven't even finished school yet. And sort of going through the process of realizing that maybe the life path that you're expected to follow or one that I've planned in the past isn't the one I necessarily want. So, I'm a huge love of acting, singing, performing. It's the thing I truly love most in the world. And I've been doing that since I was basically born. Like I started when I was a baby, and it is the true thing that I love the most. It really does feel like it's one of the reasons that I want to get up in the morning. But it's never felt like a sort of liable option as a career path, because I've always sort of felt like, oh yeah, there are actors in the world, but that's never going to be me. And so when I was younger, I'd always be like, oh yeah, I want to be a marine biologist, I want to be a doctor, all the classic careers. But the thing I loved most, even when I was thinking about that, was performing.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a philosopher, a mentor, and former advisor to the British Prime Minister. Meet my co-host Kevin. He's a former US Coast Guard captain and now an esteemed business leader and family man. And together, we're going to help you find your courage. How do you find your courage? You crush the dilemmas that life throws at you. So we're going to help you do just that.
Grateful to have you here on the podcast today to talk about your dreams and your ambitions and the dilemma of finding the right path in life, which I think is a dilemma that everyone your age faces at some point. Even at my age, I still think about the path for the rest of my life. So it's a great topic. So Stanzi, tell us more about who you are and the dilemma that you're facing at the moment.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited. So basically my dilemma is sort of still being in the process of growing up. I'm a teenager. I'm only 17 years old. I haven't even finished school yet. And sort of going through the process of realizing that maybe the life path that you're expected to follow or one that I've planned in the past isn't the one I necessarily want. So, I'm a huge love of acting, singing, performing. It's the thing I truly love most in the world. And I've been doing that since I was basically born. Like I started when I was a baby, and it is the true thing that I love the most. It really does feel like it's one of the reasons that I want to get up in the morning. But it's never felt like a sort of liable option as a career path, because I've always sort of felt like, oh yeah, there are actors in the world, but that's never going to be me. And so when I was younger, I'd always be like, oh yeah, I want to be a marine biologist, I want to be a doctor, all the classic careers. But the thing I loved most, even when I was thinking about that, was performing. But I never said that I wanted to be an actor, because it felt like such an unrealistic dream. And for the last 3 years or so, I've sort of thought, okay, maybe I want to be a lawyer, because I love I love talking, I love debating, and I've always thought, okay, maybe that's quite similar to acting, maybe that's what I want to do. But recently I've sort of had this realization that becoming an actor is really the only thing that I want to do when I'm older, and it's something that maybe I could actually potentially pursue. And it's a very confusing place to be in, because it's just the sort of fear of the unknown, like what if I make the wrong choice? And right now I have no idea if I definitely do want to pursue acting or go into something more conventional. It's a very tough decision, and I'm trying to navigate all these sort of conflicting ideas whilst I'm still keeping an open mind about my future. And it's just the sort of questions that always roll into your mind, like, how do you know if this is the right path? I feel a sort of pull towards it, but how do I trust it enough to make a big change? And I've always had so much support from my family and my friends, and they always say to me, do what you love, because that's the only thing that matters. Especially my dad, he's always been my biggest cheerleader, and he has so much encouragement for me that to follow my heart and explore the options I want to. And that is sort of, it's a weird feeling to have that sort of parent, because it's the dream. You want them to be like, he supports me in anything I want to do. But there's always a sort of feeling like, oh, well, maybe if he was saying, don't do this, or anyone in my life was saying, oh, no, don't do this instead, then I'd be like, okay, well, someone else is telling me what to do and I don't need to think about it. And it's the sort of feeling of like, it's in my hands to deal with it. And I don't really, it's such a scary feeling of going into something that isn't necessarily a career path that loads of people want to go into. And it's that sort of feeling of almost imposter syndrome and the feeling of just complete confusion of what do I do? How do I do it? What if I fail? It's just everything is going on in my mind at the moment. And yeah, I think I just definitely want some advice on how to deal with that. And yeah, just, yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Of
Very
course.
simple.
Of course.
Tell me about how it feels when you're on stage.
Whenever someone asks me that, I just can't put it into words. Like, it's sort of, whenever I think about being on stage in front of the lights, it almost makes me want to tear up because it's like this feeling that it's going to sound just so cliche, so cringy, but it literally just feels like I can do anything. And that it feels like that is the place where I'm meant to be. And it just feels like no matter what goes wrong in my life, I won't think about that when I'm on stage. Like I can always just come into a different mindset, and I'll never not feel happy on stage. It doesn't matter what type of character I'm playing, what if I'm singing or if I'm performing, it just makes me feel like I'm on a completely different world. And it's just the most magical feeling, and something that if I wasn't able to do it, I think I would be really, really sad, because it really is the thing that I think, oh my, okay, great, I get to do this in the future, or I have a show next week. Like, and it's the thing that really like draws me forward. So yeah.
So I love seeing the passion that you have, and I could tell when you were describing this dream of yours, you started with like that energy and that passion and that excitement, and then when you talked about the details of how to get there, that's when I saw like some of the anxiety and the doubt come in. So let's explore that a little bit. You know what? Let's dive deeper into what it is about this path that most scares you.
I think it is just the fear of the unknown. It's also all the statistics that you hear, like, oh, only 2% of actors make a living out of it, and even less, are comfortable in what they do. And it's just the sort of, especially being at school, like you're sort of told, okay, well, if you go to university and then you go on this job path, you'll be fine. You'll be comfortable in where you are. You'll make a living. Everything will be fine. But there's really you can't predict what's going to happen. If I know you can't predict with other career paths, but you really just can't predict what's going to happen with acting. It can just come out of the blue, or you can go for 10 years or more auditioning and just never get a role. And I think that's what really scares me. It's the sort of feeling of being unprepared, almost like I can't predict what's going to happen. And I really am a planner. Like I like to know exactly what's happening when, and the feeling of I have no idea what's going to happen if I really try this route, this career path. It's terrifying. I'm not going to lie. Like it's exactly what you said. Like when I think about performing, I think just this is what makes me truly happy. But then I think about the nitty gritty side of things and how do I actually get to it. And I just think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to take a step back from it. I don't want to do it. It's too stressful for me. And I think it's that sort of conflicting mindset that's really holding me back, I think.
Mm. I think that's completely normal. If you looked into any creative artist's life, it isn't the case of having this beautiful dream and loving and wanting to do it and it being easy.
Yeah.
It is a more complicated, difficult path. But I want to flip it now, though, and ask you, what scares you about not doing this?
What scares me about not doing it is not having that feeling of just complete joy ever again, because being on stage is the only place I've ever felt completely comfortable in myself. And it's the only place I've never felt a bad feeling. Like I always feel happy and joyful. And I always just think, okay, I love my life when I'm on stage. And I think not having that ever again is just, it just makes me feel, it just fills me with dread, to be honest, because it really just is. And it's the stage is sort of where I've learned more about myself as well. I feel like I've really come into my own because of acting and because of performing and because of what I've done with it. And so I think in a way I kind of owe something to it, because it really has made me feel comfortable in myself. Because, and so it's just that feeling of, I'll never feel that again if I don't try. Yeah.
Mm. And I'm really interested in this feeling of being comfortable on stage and what's happening off stage. Tell me about how life is for you off stage, and 'cause it sounds like if that's the most comfortable place that you are at, then there are other places where maybe you don't feel completely comfortable or in your own space.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I'm in a bit of an awkward time in my life, because I'm sort of navigating a lot of academic stress. I'm coming into my final year of A levels, and so there's a lot going on with that, especially considering the environment I'm in with my school. It's a very pushy school in terms of the university path they want you to go to. So in terms of the academic side of things, I do just feel a lot of stress all the time. And so when I go into go on stage, or when I go into rehearsing or whatever for a performance, um, I do just feel a sense of relief. And I think it really is that makes me think, okay, well, it's all right. Like, I just need to get through the school day, and then I can rehearse. At the moment I'm rehearsing because I'm performing at the Edinburgh Fringe this summer, and we rehearse every day after school. And so it really is just that feeling of, okay, I just need to get through school. I just need to get through this, and then I can just relax and feel at ease.
Yeah, wow. Well, the way you described your academic work, I think, is the way that a lot of people feel in their career, in their work. The norm is, gosh, this is something that I just have to get through so I can get to the good part of life. And the way you described being on stage and living your passion, that's a feeling that I think some people spend their whole lives searching for that thing that's going to bring them joy, that really lights them up inside. And sometimes they never find it, or they search for it in the wrong places. Um, but it sounds like you found it. You found that activity in life that just sets your soul on fire. And once you find it, you can't unfind it. I don't
Mm.
think there's a world in which you're going to go through life not thinking about being on stage and creatively expressing yourself. You have that in you. And so whether you pursue it in a professional path or not, I think you're always going to be a performer, Stanzi, in whatever path you go on in life. And there's always going to be that part of you that wants to do that. So I'm going to share with you one of my all-time favorite quotes from Jim Carrey, who is a great comedian, actor, artist. And he talks about his dad, who had a very stable job and worked really hard at this job that did not bring him joy and was not lighting his soul on fire, but he believed was the safest job to provide for his family. And his dad ended up losing that job, and they fell on some really hard times. And Jim Carrey talks about this moment when he realized that actually there is no such thing as this safe and certain path in life. That his dad had failed at something that he didn't love. And so he said, and this is a beautiful quote, that nothing is safe in this world. So you might as well do what you love. I don't think there's a single human being on the planet who I've met who has followed all the rules and never encountered difficulties, redundancies, job losses. Life is just like that. Whatever path. You could go into law, you could go into accounting, you could go into politics like me, which they say is kind of show business for ugly people. And I'll leave others to be the judge of that. I definitely felt like it was more than just show business, but there is a performative element to it, making speeches. But it can all come crumbling down, no matter what career you go. So I just think, why don't you just try the thing that you love,
Mm.
right? And this illusion of this safe path, it just doesn't exist. because people go down the safe route all the time and they completely fail. So wouldn't it be better to just, even if you do fail, well, at least I really enjoyed it for a while.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I see it. But I'm going to give you a chance to react to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so true. I mean, I think one of the things that always plays in my mind is a vision of me being like age 30 or something, and I'm still trying to make it as an actor. And you know, and I'm watching all of my friends live in like stable jobs with happy lives and stuff. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, like I wish I'd just done that. But also the vice versa situation of that with if I'm 30 and living in a stable job, but always wondering what I could have been as an actor. And so when I think about those two situations, I think like neither of them I'm particularly happy. But I just know that it doesn't matter if I've got to the point when I'm 30 and I still haven't had my big break or whatever, but I'll have been doing what I love for the last 10 years, you know? And so there's got to be some level of happiness that I'll have with that no matter what, because I know the feeling I experience when I act and when I try to act now. And so I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I mean, when I speak to family members or friends of the family who have gone down the sort of conventional career route, so many of them have not ended up where they thought they were going to be. I mean, one of my mum's best friends, she tried to be an actor until she was 40 and then took a law conversion course and now she's a lawyer. And so it really is, it is listening to people's stories like yours that, you do think you're really told that you have to have one career path, but it's
Mm-hmm.
never like that. And you always have a plan set in motion, but it switches up all the time. And I feel like a lot of people's plans, not many of them are actually go to plan. A lot of them switch. And so I think that is really helpful to hear. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. And I am going to pass on the mic to you, Kevin, in a bit. But I do want to come back one more time because, Stanzi, I am that 30-year-old woman. I am I am future you. Guess what? I did one career for 8 years and actually it was a dream come true. And then it totally blew up in my face and I lost my job. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? And then I realized that actually I'd always wanted to be a writer. I'd always wanted to write books, always. So it was time for a new dream. And now I just turned 30 and I'm actually starting a whole new dream at this age. I'm just getting started. Like I'm totally at the beginning of a new journey.
Yeah.
So bit of encouragement for you. I'm so happy, by the way. I haven't even published my book yet. I haven't had any success yet. But for the last 2 years I've been writing, I feel so happy. And I do lots of other work, and I have other passions, and I make money from my more practical work, I guess. Um, but your happiness will not be based on your ability to score the right role or get that big break. Your happiness is, are you living the creative life or not?
Mm.
And it doesn't matter what form that takes. I don't think it matters to you what stage you're on. I think it could be any kind of stage. I think you're going to, as long as you're doing your craft and your art, you're going to be so happy. I do kind of children's books readings to like 10 kids. It's not like national TV, but oh my gosh, it's so much fun and I just love it. So I think that we sometimes as artists have this idea of the one big break, or it's got to be a best-selling book, or it's got to be like an Oscar for me to be happy with my creative output. But don't worry, you'll be happy as long as you have an outlet and you have a stage. I think you're going to be very, very happy. And as you say, this is the kind of world where we're changing careers every decade.
Mm.
So 30-year-old you might start her singing career after 10 years in theatre. Who knows? But I just wanted to like reassure you that 30 is great. You don't have to have everything figured out. And your happiness is more about, are you living authentically as that creative self or not? Because I would
Yeah.
not be happy if I was not writing.
Sorry, you just glitched out for a second. What did you say?
Oh, no worries. Just that I'm happy. And you
Yeah,
will be too.
good. Good. Yes. Yeah.
Can I go now, Chloe? Is it
Yeah,
my
I'm
turn
so
to go for
sorry.
the? Yeah,
I
yeah,
really hopped
that's
the mic
okay.
there. Also a performer. What can I say?
Okay. Um, so just some, I took some notes while you guys were talking, and first of all, let me say, Stanzi, it's really an honor to meet you actually, and to listen to you. One of the things I love about this journey that Chloe and I and Ollie and a group of others are on. So we meet these amazing people, and you are definitely falling into that category. You have already obtained, believe it or not, clarity beyond your years for kind of who you are, where you sit in life, where you might be headed. I can see the joy. I can, as Chloe said, I can feel the passion. I can feel the joy coming out of you, which is amazing. But I can also feel the anxiety that you have, and so it's really good that you actually brought this up. And this won't be the last time you worry about this or talk about this, because you probably do all the time. But if I could give you like a phrase that would that resonates with me right now, and then I want to give you just a few specific points uh, for you to sort of consider, it would be stay the course. That would be it. Just stay the course on what you're doing and this passion that you are pursuing, because the world is going to come at you and bring opportunities that you just never see coming. But it doesn't happen if you don't stay the course in this area that you're passionate about. Honestly, truly, and Chloe knows this, and Ollie knows this. I just turned 62 a few days ago. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm totally serious about that. I mean, I've had some incredible accomplishments in my life. I've done some amazing things, but I'm still figuring it out. I really am. And this for the past year or so, uh, after I met Chloe, we started out on this whole thing about character development is really important. It's a whole new pursuit for me. I'm starting again on something new at age 62. So when Chloe says at 30 you're just getting started, at 17 you are barely getting. I mean, you are so you got such a long way to go, and you're on a good path. Just what I would say about the anxiety is just try to let it go. I mean, it's easy to say. It's a very easy thing to verbalize. Let your anxiety go. Meanwhile, I lost sleep last night worrying about my life. So it never goes away. But what you can do is you can bring your best self to every single day. Live in the moment. Do what you can to get through this day as you are in pursuit of your long-term goals that you're going after. Your dreams are not unrealistic. They're not. What's happening is these voices are coming into your head from these external forces, and they're saying, oh, it's only 2%. Oh, it's all this stuff. No, just reject all of that. This is who you are. This is what you want to do. To hell with all the statistics. um, be that 1%. And I'm totally serious about what that doesn't mean. It's going to be straight and easy and uncomplicated. It's not going to be. The obstacle is the way. We say that all the time. Stuff is going to fall in your path right in front of you that you never saw coming, and you're going to have to deal with it in all kinds of different areas of life. So trust that pull that's bringing you into this direction in life, and trust your instincts. The passion is real. You will get more clarity with time. You really will. And as you continue to walk down the path, there will be things that are in your industry, the performing arts industry, that you didn't even know were out there, or they were kind of on the fringe, and all of a sudden, bam, it's right in front of you, and you say, "Huh, that's interesting. Um, Maybe I should try to get involved in that a little bit." I mean, if you think about just in terms of dollars or pounds that are out there in the performing arts industry, whether it's movies, concerts, singing, dancing, all of it, it is trillions and trillions of dollars. There are opportunities out there in that world for you, and so that clarity and more opportunity will confront you. And then the final thing is, Chloe, man, I was really impressed with your just sort of pulling out good stuff from Stanzi. That was great. You really asked some very, very good questions. You're very good at this. Oh, one more thing I want to say and then I'll be quiet for a minute. I'm going to compliment your parents for giving you your name and why they gave it to you. I have a belief that names make a difference in your life. And I can say for me personally, my ancestors came to America in the 1800s. They came from the Irish area. My name is Kevin. They gave me that name because it's an Irish name, and I have bonded with my name over time, and it has impacted things that I say, things that I do. So names are important, and I think your parents knew what they were doing when they named you what they did, because they kind of are scooting you along a path, which I think is wonderful. I do. I think that's amazing. So there you go. All right, back to you, Chloe.
Oh, thank you. That was so helpful.
Yeah, Kevin really has like some great wisdom, and
Yeah.
on these podcasts, I find myself feeling like a guest as well as a host because I get coached just hearing his reflections and everything. And I agree with him. You have this passion. We can see it very clearly in you, and I just I think it's as simple as that. And I think you have this dream. And let me tell you, not everyone has a dream at your age. Not everyone has that gift. It's a
That's
real
right.
gift
Yeah. Yeah.
because there are a lot of confused and scared people out there who don't know where they're going and don't have a North Star and spend a lot of their lives trying to figure out what is it that I was put here to do. And to understand at a young age, this is it. This is the thing I was put here to do is such an incredible gift and a real head start in life. So it sounds like, this is your dream. You're going to do it. Like, you're going to do it. And we're just going to watch you do it. Um, and something that I understand that you really wanted to get out of today is look at that anxiety and maybe talk about some coping strategies and some techniques. And I'd like to share that with you. On anxiety in general, I find that as someone who's lived with very heightened anxiety my entire life, even from when I was a kid, my daily habits have a really big impact. If I can stay grounded in my daily habits through getting enough sleep, not drinking too much caffeine, which can be like rocket launcher fuel for anxiety. I'm sure you know all this already, but just sharing my experience and through the mistakes that I made earlier on in my career, drinking energy drinks to try and meet a deadline. And then why is my heart rate up so much? I'm sure you know all these things, but taking care of your body and taking care of your daily habits really helps with that anxiety, especially in times of uncertainty and life transitions, which you're going through, which is trying to figure out your life. So staying grounded in those daily habits and taking time to meditate, to journal, just to find some kind of practice that really settles your mind, is something that I really wish I could have started at your age. So I'm going to give you the head start on something that I figured out later in life, which is how much our daily habits impact our outlook and our anxiety. Our brains are really powerful if we power them the right way and give them the right way. The other thing that I think would be really great for you to do is to try out something called the game plan. So you have a dream, and right now it's scary because it's the North Star that you want to get to, but you don't know what the next right step is. And I think it might give you a bit more sense of control of your life if you wrote down a plan, at least for the next year. So you can't control the next 10 years. You can't foresee that. But what you can do is actually spend some time thinking about, so here's my lifetime goal. So in 10 years, what do I need to achieve? And then what can I do in the next year that is within my control to work towards that? And as creators and artists, we don't have a huge amount of control in the market. As you know, so much of it is luck, but the more you show up for things, the luckier you get, right? So every time you network and show up for an event and audition, you up your odds dramatically. And that 2% number, yeah, maybe of everyone who tries one audition ever, it's 2%. But how many people show up every time consistently? Those are better odds, much better odds. So you can make your odds better. But one thing we do have control over is our craft. So you have this raw talent as a performer, and one thing that is within your control is working on your craft. And you can do that anywhere, anytime. And you're already doing it. So give yourself credit for the steps you're already taking to pursue this career. But I think what could be really helpful is writing a plan. Like, here is what it would look like hypothetically if I finish school and I go into performing arts. And you might find that you get a lot of clarity through that exercise. And then you have a plan, and then you can take action. And that takes away this blank canvas and this fear of, well, what's the plan? Write your own plan. And then you can go and pursue it. And it might change over time, but I think it would be hugely empowering for you. And we have this tool, which is being developed into an app, but it's currently an Excel spreadsheet. But we're going to send it to you because I think it could really help. And this is actually a tool that Kevin designed, which is, just about planning your life and planning your time. But I think you'll get there. And the other thing we haven't talked about, which I would love to hear more about, is how do you feel about other people's reactions to your work? Because as an artist, I am terrified that my art isn't going to be good enough, that people are going to make fun of me, that I'm going to fail. And this is the side of being a performer or creative that we don't talk about a lot because it's like a little bit embarrassing. But I wanted to ask you, do you think there's also a little bit of that that's holding you back, of other people's opinions and what they're going to say about you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I think the first time I met you and I spoke to you about wanting to potentially be an actor, I remember thinking, oh my God, what if she judges me? Like, what if you think like, oh my gosh, like that's a ridiculous thing to say. Like no one becomes an actor. Like whenever I say to somebody, like forget even doing it and having someone judge you, it's just the initial thing of saying, yeah, my dream is to go to drama school and to become an actor, because you always just think, oh, what if they're just thinking in their head, oh, okay, well, that's like, okay, well, thanks for saying that, but that's not going to happen. And it's whenever you hear someone's reaction that's like, oh, okay, you always think, okay, well, then I'm just not going to mention it anymore because everyone's judging me and I hate it and I don't want to talk about it anymore. And so I think I just sort of shut it down then. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's something I thought about when I was younger, but now I want to do this. And you just kind of push it away. And I think also with what you were saying, yeah, I mean, as much as I love being on stage, I mean, as I've said before, it's the thing I love most. There's something that is so vulnerable about being on stage, and everybody is watching you. And although I quite like that, there is always the sort of worry of thinking, oh, what if I don't do something right? Or what if I don't do something that people like? Or what if I'm on stage doing something that doesn't really conform to what people think I'll do or think this is about? And they judge me and they think, oh, she wasn't very good in that, or she didn't do this well. And I think it is sort of that fear, like, it's not when I go on stage that I think about that, but it's when I come off and think about all the things like, oh, I went to stage right instead of stage left here, and the whole audience will know, even though of course I know they're not going to know that. It's just me thinking about that. And it really is, it's the bit afterwards where I think about all the things I've done wrong and how everyone thinks I'm the worst person ever and I shouldn't ever be allowed on a stage again, And so I completely agree with you. I think it is really that fear that is also holding me back a bit.
Totally normal, universal human experience. And I can tell with experience, even the Prime Minister comes off a TV interview and turns to you and says, Chloe, was that okay? It is everyone. Everyone feels this way. And I'm so glad we're talking about it, because once you kind of have to own it. You kind of have to know this about yourself, that, yeah, I'm actually vulnerable to other people's opinions. I don't buy this whole, just shut off what other people think of you, just don't care about it. You'd have to be like a psychopath not to care about other people's feedback and criticism. One strategy that's helped me, because I do a lot of sharing my art with the world, which is really scary. And like you, I'm like, people are going to judge me. Like I'm saying I'm like an author, like they're going to think I'm crazy. And then they're going to read my work and think I'm even crazier. And they're all going to talk about how, and no one thinks this, but it's this kind of thing we have in our heads. So one strategy I learned from Brene Brown, who is one of the best experts writers about vulnerability. She's like, you got to think about the critics in your mind and imagine them in the front row of the stage in whatever you're doing, and walk up to them and say, I see you. I know you're going to criticize what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And like, I don't know why, but that visualization for me really, really helped. So whenever I'm scared about doing something and I think about those critics, right, I actually bring them to mind. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you might have a go at me about this. You might think it's a bit strange. And that might hurt my feelings, genuinely. But can you just like wait here? Because I'm just going to do it anyway. And it's hugely empowering. So I wanted to share that with you because, oh man, yeah, the feedback factor of being a creative is very, very tricky. And that, I think, more than anything, is the greatest fear, because that's what the failure is about, right? Not just failing at something, but people watching you fail. And that terrifies me. But if that happened, you would survive. You would be okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, thank you for sharing that because it's always nice when someone says something that you're also going through because you're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. And no one really talks about that sort of like the fear or like the fear of being judged or being embarrassed because you sort of think, oh, no one's going to think that. Like it's like when you're sitting in a classroom with loads of people and you're thinking, oh, I don't understand this, and then you're like, I'm not going to put up my hand because everyone else understands it, and then you put up your hand and everyone's like, oh no, I wanted to ask that too. It's just it's the sort of solidarity that makes me feel a bit better. So thank you for saying that.
Yes,
I want to respond a little bit, Chloe. And there's some more really good stuff. And I'm going to school too, Chloe, on everything you say. So that's really true. Just some real life stories for you, Stanzi, about this exact topic that you're thinking about. Um, I too have done a little bit of writing, and in my family, one of the things that we're not good at is keeping track of family history. And so I woke up one day and said, I want to write down things in my life that I think are important that would be interesting 100 years from now, 200 years from now, from people who want to know about where our family came from, what the people did, who they were, and so on. So I started writing what I would describe as my memoirs a long time ago. I started writing, and I could never really get past sort of the startup phase of that because of this fear that you're talking about. Like somebody's going to read this and go, that's just, first of all, it's really poor writing. The stories aren't interesting. All the things that you can imagine that could go wrong came into my mind. And so I just stopped and I stopped and I stopped. And then finally, somewhere, and I wish I could remember where I heard this the first time. I've heard it since. Somebody said to me about writing, but it applies to all kind of areas of life. And I'll share another example. Write as if you're writing to yourself. Don't worry about what everybody thinks about in the moment. Just say, if I were writing a book to Kevin Harkins, this is what I would write. And so somehow that perspective is like Chloe having the visual of going to the doubters and the haters on the front row and saying, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, I'm going to do this anyway, and I'm going to do it for myself. And I'm going to write as if I am the audience. I think this is really interesting. I think that what I'm doing is really fun and really tells a story. And so, the next thing I woke up and I was done with the thing. It was amazing how easy it became after that. All of a sudden, it was just going. Another one is, Chloe mentioned this thing called the game plan. This was a tool that over a period of years, I sort of developed over time. Never shared it with anybody, including my wife. And so it was my own personal little individual approach to being the most efficient and effective in my own life and going in a direction that I wanted to go in. And finally, one of the guys that I knew that's part of our tribe here found out about it. Tom Moore. I don't know if you know Tom, but he found out about it and he started saying, "Man, this sounds interesting. Tell me more about it." And I did, with great trepidation because I didn't want to tell him about it. And then he said, "Send it to me." I said, "No, I'm not going to send it to you. You talk about vulnerable. I got goals in there. I have dreams in there. I have things I want to do in there that are nobody's business but mine. And I don't want anybody else to know about them because they're that personal. They're that close to me." He kept pressing me. "No, you got to release it. You got to release it. You got to release it." I finally did. And I literally was awake all night worried about what people were responding, how they were responding to, because I sent it to Chloe. I sent it to Ollie. I sent it to Tom. I sent it to 3 or 4 others. Oh my goodness, the feedback that came back, like, this is incredible. This is incredible stuff. And so that's what will happen when you are performing for yourself, to bring it back to you. When you're performing for yourself in the way that you like and you want, and in a way that you think is going to resonate best with you, guess what that is? It's unique. It's different. It's powerful. And what does everybody want? They don't want the same old thing. They want something different. They want something unique. They want something that nobody else is doing, and nobody else is you. You are you by yourself. And so if you're performing for yourself, I'm not saying, and Chloe's exactly right. It's so easy to say, tune out the critics. You can't do that. It's not realistic, but you can manage it. You can deal with it. And that's the way you go forward and do it. Perform to yourself, perform in a way, sing in a way, dance in a way, the way that you think you'd like it to be done. And you'd be amazed how people will react to it. So there you go. There's my latest piece.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it was so helpful hearing you say that, because there is always the sort of thought of, oh, okay, I have to do this to conform to the crowd, and I have to do what other people are doing. But it's so true. I've never thought about it in that way before. It's just like, people do want something new. They've already seen that, so they want something new, and you're new. It's so true. Yeah, thank you.
You
You're
are
welcome.
completely unique. And can I say, you're very refreshing. You have a great energy about you, um, which is why I felt so drawn to speaking with you and to pursuing more conversations. You just got something special about you. And I think it's to do with your character. I think you have a strong character. You have a kind energy. You have an openness. You have a kindness that I can really see in you. And it would be such a shame for the world not to see what you have to offer and to see the brilliance of what you can do. And I really like you to consider this idea that you have in your head of what success and failure looks like. Because I think sometimes we have this idea of success being this state that you arrive at, or this particular big break that you mentioned. And then once I get that, I'll be successful. And failure is the failure to do something or an action. But what I've learned is that success is actually more about, do I like who I am and what I'm doing every day? I mean, that is the absolute dream of life. That is what everyone is pursuing in so many different ways. You can see it in human nature. We all just want to like who we are and what we're doing. And when we're living out our passion, we really like who we are. Whether we're living out our passion for millions of pounds or £10. The work that I've absolutely loved the most in my life, I actually haven't been paid for, which is crazy. One day I will be. I love performing poetry. I love being on stages. I find stages in local cafes because I just like doing it. And to me, that's what success is. Now, I think you probably are going to be on some pretty big stages. I see that in your future. But the real success will come from you just being who you are, liking who you are, and finding ways to be in alignment with the things that you enjoy. And if you can do that, then you'll have a very successful life. And I want to finish on this idea, which is a really beautiful phrase that my good friend and mentor, Oprah Winfrey, I haven't actually met her, but in my head, we're like friends because I've watched so much of her shows over time. And she talks about our job as human beings, our purpose here. And it's to be the most honest, authentic expression of ourselves. That's it. If we're doing that, then that's everything. And so I just want to encourage you to think of your life in terms of that being the successful path, being an honest, authentic expression of who you are, because who you are is amazing. And we can't wait to see what you do with your life.
Thank you so much.
Amen. That was great. As always, yeah.
Do
So
you have
Stanzi,
any
yeah,
sorry.
I was just going to say, you get the last word. Well,
Yeah.
tell us what you think about all this.
I mean, it's so nice hearing people say what you've been saying today. Like, what really resonated with me is when, I think you were both talking about it, but when Kevin spoke about the sort of statistic aspect of it, and how I talked about, only 2% of actors make it, but you're so much more than a statistic, and you shouldn't base yourself on that. And I think it stuck with me, because that I base my whole life on statistics, like whether it's drama 2%, or whether it's uni, only 10% get into this uni, or stuff. Like, I always base my life around that, and I'm like, okay, this can't happen because it's a really low statistic. And I think it's so helpful to hear you say, just step out of that and really just think about the more human side of things. So I think that was just so helpful. And it's just this whole talk has just really made me think about, that, like, the journey of finding my way is just going to be unique, and like, it's not a straight line, and that it's okay to take detours, because I just think that a lot of the way my brain has been thinking about it is, okay, I have to just take one straight line, that's it, continuing down this path for the rest of my life, otherwise everything's going to go to hell. And so I think it's been really helpful to hear that just like every experience, every challenge, every success really just contributes to your growth. And yeah, I just think this has made me think just more to trust myself and trust in my ability to sort of learn and adapt. And so, yeah, thank you so much. It's been so lovely, so helpful.